Está el ganado por su maldito proceder. Voy a tratarla con rigor y no tenerle compasión. Mi prieta chula.
Hello, welcome to Mr. Wallin's neighborhood. You're joining us today from Tequila Mexico, where we're gonna go and visit the Fortaleza Distillery, which is a big honor for me to be able to show you guys what they're doing. And also, it's gonna be pretty cool. Come on, let's check it out.
Esas tierras del rincón, las sembré con un buen pando, se me reventó el barzón y siempre la yunta andando. Cuando llegué a media tierra, el arado iba enterrado, se enterró hasta la telera, el timón se deshojó, el barzón se iba trozando, el yugo se iba pandeando, el sembrador me iba hablando, yo le dije al sembrador, no me hables cuando ande arando. Se me reventó el barzón y siempre la yunta andando. Cuando sale a la otra orilla, la tierra estaba pesada. Me decía mi prenda amada, métase para adentrito, no se vaya usted a mojar, no se vaya usted a mezclar.
Well, as a kid growing up in Mexico, as you probably remember, my grandfather owned the Sauza brand, and it was a brand started by my great-great-grandfather in 1870s. During the revolution here in 1910, it was an awful revolution. Over 1 million Mexicans died during the revolution, and compare that to the Civil War. I think it was about 600,000 Union and Southern soldiers died, mostly soldiers. It didn't impact the civilian population as much. Well, here it was 1 million people and mostly civilians, so it was a brutal, brutal revolution.
Hey!
Kobe!
Welcome to Fortaleza, man. How you doing?
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you too.
Come on in, come on in. You ready for a tour?
Oh yeah.
You ready to see everything?
Absolutely.
To
Let's
the
check it out.
nitty-gritty?
Let's get down to it.
Let's get down. We're gonna see where they make the stoppers, where we bottle all the tequila, and then through that, we're gonna see the barrel house as well.
Esas tierras del rincón.
Yeah, we just got a new load of agave in. So the boys are now loading up one of our ovens. And we're gonna cook these agaves for 36 hours so that they become nice and rusty brown basically, and all the starches will be turned into sugars.
So 36 hours cooked in the steam oven.
Yep.
I noticed these are all split in half. Makes it easier to cook,
To stack.
to
First of all, you lose a lot of space if you keep them as a whole, but also we need to chop them in half so we can take out what we call the cojollo. The cojollo is where the quiote would sprout out from, and it will leave a bitter part in your tequila if you leave it in. So we cut that out, and then we can stack them into the oven. Yeah, you can see difference in agaves. Big agaves are obviously better because it's easier to get more out of it, but smaller agaves are not bad. It's about the sugar content mostly.
How much do these weigh?
Pick one up. Here's your CrossFit session of the day.
I don't do CrossFit.
Exactly.
God damn, seems like it might be good to split them in
They're
half.
pretty dense, isn't it?
Also, just from
They're pretty dense.
the
They're pretty
fact that they're heavy, yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually the cooked agave, what they look like when they come out of the oven. So you can see the difference in color. If you want to taste a cooked agave, be my guest. The middle is what we call the corazon, so the center of the agave, which is basically this part right here.
Tastes like brown sugar.
And then the side is the pencas, so these. And those are a lot sweeter actually. So you chew it like a chewing gum, you just don't swallow the fibers, or the toilet will be your best friend tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull it out actually like this.
So this one right here is our original oven. It's about 15 tons worth. And you can see we fill it all the way to the top. And
So how old
then
is
we're
this
gonna
oven?
this is the original oven from 1903.
So this oven's been here since 1903.
Yep.
Wow. So these guys are fucking masters of Tetris.
And muscles, because
Yeah.
you weighed one of those things. Imagine putting 15 tons in an oven. They take about 2 hours.
To fill this
fill
whole
it.
thing? 15 tons?
15 tons,
Holy
2
shit.
hours.
Todo el maíz que te toca no le
So this
pagan
is a
ni
newer
la
oven. It's been here for about 2 years around now. And this is where we now get the agaves at this time. So this has been still filled. But as you can see, they drop down. As I told you in the other oven, they drop down. But this is 29 tons worth. So imagine this takes about 3.5 to 4 hours to fill. So almost double.
So this is also about double the volume.
Yeah, 29 tons versus 15 tons.
I mean, the smell in here is amazing. It smells like
Sweet potato.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
It does smell like that. But it has like the room has like this steamy, like I can feel in my lungs a little bit.
Yeah. So it's still a bit hot as well from the cooking.
Yeah.
As you can see, the only part that they actually used so far was this, which is about 3 tons, because we use about 3 tons every turn of the tahona. So this is about 3 tons they took out, and then they will have more and more taken out during the day.
So this will be processed all today.
No, not all today. This is for a few days.
A few days. Yeah. And they're putting more in
3
there.
tons, 2 shifts per day. So that means 6 tons per day. This is 29 tons, so they can go for
5
a while.
days.
Yep.
Qué bellos son nuestros paisajes, cuidémoslos. 100 años respaldan a Sauza Blanco, el tequila por excelencia. Y en esos momentos, a mí, lo nuestro, Sauza.
And I grew up, and it was the heyday of Tequila Salsa when I was growing up, with all of the parties and just seeing my grandfather with all of the marketing events they did. And we just had a lot of fun as kids. It was just amazing time in the 70s. It was a tequila boom. It brought me great feelings to be involved with that. And unfortunately, my grandfather sold, but we always had the idea that I would bring it back, and with my mom's help, this is my 3rd career, we were able to, yeah, I know, 3rd career in life. And we were able to bring this little distillery that my grandfather had left us. It's a distillery, it's over 100 years old. It's on the property. It wasn't the original property. A lot of people think it was the original distillery for my great-grandfather, but it wasn't. My grandfather had bought this property. It was bought in the 1950s. And he worked the distillery until about 1968 when he closed down. And then in 1976, he decided to sell Tequila Salsa, and we were all stunned, like, wow, he just one night. Next day, he had sold it to a big company, brandy company. And we were all stunned, but fortunately in the year 2000, we were able to start rehabilitating the distillery, and we got it working. It works with a crushing stone, and we do all of our tequila using this old methodology. And
The stone crush method, was that by choice and also by just, that's what you had to work with? Or was it more of a conscious thing where you said, we're going to revitalize this tequila brand and we want to do it in this traditional method?
It's what we had. And originally the plan was to bring out a roller mill, because you can't really volume with a tahona. It's just impossible to volume. And so that was the original plan, is to put a machine roller mill. But what happened was in 2002, we did our first test distillation. I wouldn't say we were ready for production. We were able to produce 1 batch, but things weren't quite where we could actually run continuously. We had tested the stills by distilling water for, I think we distilled water for 5 days in a row, just to kind of stress test the factory. But then we started milling, and we made 1 batch of tequila, and we tasted this tequila, and we thought, right then and there, we decided to change the business plan. We were not going to make a roller mill, and we were going to stay on the high end of the market, because we felt that the product was just spoke for itself.
Yeah. All right, so we've seen the cooked agave that we just walked out of this room with the cooked agave. We've seen the green agave, but what I'm wondering is, how do you cook the agave? Like, how do you actually get that hot?
Well, we cook with steam. So we got big grills and tubes with steam that push in steam from the bottom. And the steam comes from this big boy. So this is one of our boilers. This boiler is fairly modern for us because it's from the 80s. So basically a big steam boiler, putting water in, heating it up until we have steam. And then it gets pushed through here, which will divide it to the ovens. and also to the stills, because we use the steam for our stills to heat up as well.
So it's a pretty important part of the process.
Pretty important. If this breaks down, we're out of production.
What we have here is a donkey. I'm just kidding, it's a tractor.
An electric donkey.
Yeah, but this is Tahona Will.
Exactly.
And basically, this is the traditional method of crushing agave. So these two guys basically follow him around. One guy with the rake, one guy with the, looks like a hook.
Yep.
And they're basically pulling it into the path of that Tahona.
So everything of those, there's about 3 tons of bagasso in there.
Okay.
And in the course of about 3 to 4 hours, all those 3 tons will be put under that Tahona.
So is there a way to know when it's crushed enough?
Experience.
Okay.
So they know exactly, they've been doing this, they do this daily.
Yeah.
So every day they're doing this, the tractor pulls it around, they follow it, they put all the bagasso underneath it. You can actually see the juice running in front of the stone a bit. So the juice is coming pressed out, but then the juice will be sucked up again. It's like a sponge. When you have a sponge, you press on the sponge, water comes out, and then the sponge sucks it back up. It's the same what happens with the agave, but it's loosened up. So later on, we will add water to it, and we will wash the agave, and that way we have water that is filled with sugar, and that's what we use for the fermentation.
So these guys are going to work this process for 3 to 4 hours.
3 to 4 hours, and then the washing is another 3 to 4 hours.
And then everything is collected in this pit. You guys wash, add water, and then it runs out this little trough right there.
Yeah, there's a little hatch that we open, and that hatch, we will get all the water. The water will be about just under the knee, approx. So water will come down with all the sugar. We collect it in that pit, and from that pit it gets pumped into our fermentation tanks.
Tank or whatever.
Yeah, just a collecting pit, nothing more.
It's so interesting too, because you got this electric tractor, but literally everything else about that is super old. I love the smell. So you've got that's something that's always so cool about a distillery is you have this incredible smell when you walk in, and each one has its own smell. But the smell of agave is so wonderful. So also this is fresh bagasso. What we saw before had been crushed quite a bit. So this is a little darker in color.
Yeah, you see the color difference. Yeah. It's like a tea bag.
Yeah.
Basically what they will do is with the water is with the pitchfork, they will take the bagasso, turn it around in the water a few times, make sure that the sugar stays in the water, and then they put the bagasso up. You see the big wooden ladders?
Yeah.
They put them up, and that's where the bagasso goes on top.
So they're gonna...
So it can drip down.
Man, look in front of that Tahona Will. So we're walking up here, we got this truck dripping liquid, and inside of it is a bunch of bagasso. What is bagasso?
Bagasso are basically the spent fibers. So when we have crushed the agaves and then washed them into the water, this is what we get. This is the residue. As you can see, they're very wet, it's dripping. From some companies, it will be not as wet. We took out all of the sugar that we need. I always compare it to olive oil. You have extra virgin, which is first pressing. That's where the rich flavor comes from.
Right.
If you have second, third, or fourth pressing, it's not as rich in flavor anymore. You just have a lot of juice.
Right.
And that's basically what those other companies are doing. We are doing just the first pressing, making sure that all the richness of the flavor is out of there, and then we don't use them anymore because we have the essence of the flavor.
Right. So it goes in a little wet, and then what are you going to do with this?
So this truck is going to go to a processing plant or to our fields. All right. So this is where we ferment all our juice, right?
Okay.
So we come from all the juice that we got from the Tahona. That is at about 10.5 to 11.5 bricks.
Okay.
And then we will ferment it. The fermentation.
Okay, so bricks, that's distillable sugars?
Yeah.
So bricks is what you're trying to extract from the agave. And basically when you ferment it, that's what the yeast is going to eat. So it's the food for the yeast that creates the fermentation.
An agave in general has between 18 and 25 bricks as it is, but that's way too high for our yeast to actually attack it. So that's where we add water. We do the washing in the pit, and we get to about 10.5 to 11.5 bricks, and then we pump it in here. These pripones are about 6,000 liters each, and we fill them all the way up. The yeast is proprietary, so I cannot tell you much about our yeast, but it takes us about 2 to 2.5 days to get to 4.5, 5% of alcohol.
Okay.
And it's really cool to go up on that ladder and see how that actually
Once
is
you
going.
get it to 4.5, 5% alcohol, is that when it will be transferred to the still?
That's when we're going to distill. I'll hold this ladder for you because I know how sportive you are.
I think you might have just called me fat. Wow.
Stick your finger in there, taste it.
Wow.
I just love it here. I love it. You know, we're down here on a motorcycle ride, and I just Mexico is a special place. It's got its, you know, it's got its problems. But in our little town, like, we're super safe. I mean, we don't have any crime hardly at all. You know, there's.
I think a lot of people don't like, and again, this is why this is so important for me to do this, is because I don't think a lot of people really understand Mexico like that, especially Americans, because it's not the same type of small village culture really anywhere. Even if it's small town America, like if you travel around, it's not sort of the same feel, you know? It's the people that you would think are without are actually abundant with.
And they're very happy.
Yeah.
People here have nothing in many places, and they're very, very happy living. You know, people are happy here. I don't know what it is. They're happy. They're satisfied with life, and you see it in the small towns, and the small towns we've ridden through is just amazing, and I just love it here.
That's how it's done right there.
Let's go to the stills, right?
Yep, let's check it out.
So this is our friend Efren. He's one of the master distillers here in Tequila Fortaleza. These ones are the old ones. These ones are since the beginning that this distillery started, 1903. That's a 450 liter one. I don't know what that is in gallons.
Yeah.
And that's a
Me neither.
250 one. And then we have added a new one 2 years ago that is 700 liters. So the first distillation, we call it Ordinario, right? And the second distillation is tequila. Now those two only make Ordinario. This one only makes tequila. So anything that is tequila comes from our 250 liter still. The stills are heated up with steam, which comes from our boiler.
Uh-huh.
And so everything that is fermented is at about 4.5 to 5% of alcohol. We will put it in those stills, first make Ordinario, and we will get to 19% of alcohol. And then we'll go in our still right here and make it up to 46% of alcohol for tequila.
So is it continuously running until it gets to 19% alcohol?
Yeah.
Or do you
So
catch that in the first run?
This one takes about an hour and 15 minutes to get to 19%. It's the total that is 19%.
Right.
The total that is 46%. So in the beginning, it comes out at a lot more, and then it drops down because the boiling point of alcohol is a lot lower than the boiling point of water. So
Right.
the first thing that comes out is pure alcohol. Not good.
Yeah.
Those are the methanols.
Methanol.
And not good for your health. So we chug that out. While we have small stills, it's about 1 or 2 liters, not more. So we don't have a lot of loss. And then we have the alcohols that we want. So we start at about 70%, 75%, goes down gradually. And when we get 19% in total in that tank, that's when we stop and go to the tails.
Okay. So then once you're at 19%,
Everything goes into this still
Okay.
at 19%, and we have more alcohol to play with. So we have more alcohol coming out. And then we have 46% in total that comes out of here.
so it's distilled in total to 46% alcohol.
Exactly.
And that's it.
That's it. And that's
Okay.
our still strength. Still strength has no water at it. It's just filtered a bit to make it cleaner. And that's it. That's exactly what you want. So this is not a shot, all right?
Yeah, that's a big shot, by the way, if that was
So-
a shot.
Ordinario is at 19% of alcohol. It's the first pass of tequila. It's like an agave wine, basically.
Right.
It is really tasty to taste it, but don't drink too much of it because it will
Make your
play
stomach
with
mess
your
up.
stomach.
Gracias.
But try a bit and let me know what you think.
Hey. Everybody's got to be included in Mr. Wallin's neighborhood. Oh, man. Or cameraman.
Cheers, Casey.
Cheers. Cheers. Pepe.
So you see, it's light in flavor.
Yeah.
This is the master, man.
Yeah. How long has it been distilling?
¿Por cuántos años estás destilando?
Más de 40,
More than 40 years.
Wow.
more than 40 years.
Always-
I learned this job when I have 16 years old.
Really?
Yeah, when I learned this.
And now you're home. Only took 40 years.
Yeah.
So this is the difference also. These are old stills. There's not a lot of buttons to pull and everything.
Right.
Everything is manual. You unlock this manually.
Yeah.
You check the gauges. You
Yeah.
check it with a flashlight. Make sure that everything is done right.
So he needs to be here for the full distillation
You need to be
process.
here. Here, it's still very hands-on.
So he has to check everything out.
Vamos a llenar este alambique, está totalmente frío. Aquí.
So now we're going to taste a bit of the tequila, the final product at 46% of alcohol, which only comes from this still, not the other two.
So once this fills up, where does it go?
This goes into our tanks, and then from there, it's ready. There's three options. Either we bottle it straight away at 46, we did our still strength, or we add water to it, demineralized water to take it down to 40%, which is our normal Blanco, or we put it in the barrels. And in the barrels, it's 6 months or 18 months for Reposado or Añejo.
At 46%
At
alcohol.
46%. And after those months, we will take it down to 40% for the normal Reposado or Añejo. So he's checking the level of degrees right now. This is one of the two barrels houses that we have. It's the smallest one, but it's also the original one. So we're gonna go there first, and then you have an idea of what the bigger barrel house is. It's just a bit more modern. It's the same principle though.
All right. So here we are in the Fortaleza Rick House. The Rick House basically is the area where they're gonna age the tequila. So they take a still strength Blanco tequila, and then it goes into these barrels. And Kobe, I noticed that we have lots of different types of barrels here, mostly bourbon. So I have Buffalo Trace here,
For Roses here,
Jim Beam, some Heaven Hill. So
For us, it doesn't really matter where the barrels come from.
Uh-huh.
We have a bit of everything because when we get the barrels, we actually chip the inside away and we burn them again. And that way we create a bit of our own flavor profile. And we can get barrels from wherever we can get them at that point.
Right.
As you know, bourbon barrels can only be used once. It needs to be new American oak for bourbon. So the tequila industry as a whole has taken that as an incentive. Let's bring them here.
Right.
They're cheaper as well. Transport is not that expensive. Some people are trying with cognac barrels or whatever, but those are a bit more expensive. As cognac, they can be used for multiple times and
Right.
also transported across the ocean. It's going to cost you a lot more. So bourbon has always been the easy way out for tequila, and it brings a great flavor. So why change a winning team, right?
exactly. So they're taking the barrels, basically what he was saying is that they actually take the barrels, open them up, strip them out, rechar them so that they have, it's their own method
Exactly.
when it comes to the aging process. So we've talked about this before, but basically 2 to 11 months is a reposado.
6 months is for us.
6 months. So their reposado, the reposado for Fortaleza goes 6 months. And then the añejo is
18 months for us.
18 months for their añejo. And añejo is basically anything that's 11. It's a certain amount of days basically, but basically I say 2 months to 11 months or 2 months to a year basically. It's a little bit under a year. And then anything up to 3 years is añejo. And then the numbers on these are,
It's just for us for identification, so we know what barrel was filled when. So we know exactly when they're at 6 months. We know exactly when they're at 18 months.
so what's this?
It's a bit of leakage of the barrel itself. It's the resin of the barrel itself.
So this is actually coming out of the barrel. So that's sort of showing the interaction to the barrel. It's even pushing that out.
So what I want to really put the focus on for us, if you have on the back of our bottle, you have a lot number. Like for example, the R is Reposado, the A is Añejo, the S is still strength, and the B is Blanco. So it's not like lot A or lot B. It's just a different expression. But the lot numbers will give away when it was made. And you have lot numbers of Reposado, let's say, for example, the 45 versus the 50, they will not be the same color. They will not even have the same exact flavor. They will be a bit different. They will still have the Fortaleza profile, obviously, but some barrels are here for longer than normal. Some barrels are new for us, so they will give you a different flavor profile, also a different color.
So meaning like certain barrels that you've had that you've already used for tequila, you use it again, and then you use it again, and then you get another fresh barrel in, and you may have a difference in the final expression because the barrels are different.
So what we do is we do an añejo first, then we do reposado, then we chip and char again, and then we do the same sequence, and we do that 3 times. So in essence, a barrel is used 9 times. Awesome. 3 times for añejo, 6 times for reposado. So in that last cycle, the reposado is going to be a lot lighter because there's not as much flavor in the barrel anymore. The first añejo that comes out of a new barrel is going to be a bit darker. So in that way, our barrels will change a bit and our lots will change a bit. So that's a really fun way of looking into it.
And so there's no blending that happens.
No. Well, we do blend some barrels together. Obviously, we don't have single barrels,
Right.
but we don't adjust the color or the flavor. If, for example, if these 10 barrels were put together, it is what comes out. No matter what the color is, no matter what the flavor is. That's what we're going to buy.
Okay, so blending isn't necessarily to try to achieve a standard. It's more just to create the volume.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because they were all filled with one batch of tequila that was made, still strength. They went all in on the same day, and they will all come out on the same day. 6 months for reposado, 18 months as an añejo, as we talked about. Yeah, and then blend them all together, and that's the lot we have. And sometimes it will be darker, sometimes it will be lighter, but that's the fun part of it.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because a lot of there is brands out there that blend to keep characteristic. So they'll take a certain a product that they have, a tequila that they have, and then they'll blend that tequila back in with their new stuff so that you have something that tastes the same, or they're trying to achieve something that tastes the same. And again, with Fortaleza, what they're doing is, what's important is they're creating the process is the same. So each time we do the process the same, and whatever comes out, comes out. And I think, again, for me, that's pretty indicative of like ancestral style of production when it comes to spirits. It's not about making sure that we try to produce the same thing in terms of flavor profile. It's just important that we're producing in the same way every time.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't use additives in the whole process, because with additives you can also change the color. For example, caramel extract will change the color of your juice. Glycerine will give it a smoother mouthfeel. Oak extract, same for the color and even for a bit of artificial aging. And then the last one you can use officially is sugar-based syrups. So basically, you want your tequila to taste like bananas. You could with a sugar-based syrup on bananas. We don't use any of the additives. What comes out of the barrels is what we bottle, straight up. As you can see some labels on the barrels as well, and those are put on by the CRT. In case you can tell you what the CRT is, he's well aware.
So the CRT is the regulatory board for tequila, and basically they control the production of tequila so that they can make something a commodity. Basically, they're proving the worth of the tequila by saying these people are following these rules, so we'll call this 100% agave tequila. What Kobe was talking about, which is quite interesting, and a lot of people don't know this, is that if something says 100% agave, it doesn't actually have to be 100% agave, because there's allowable variants for natural additives. And so what Kobe was explaining is that there is these different natural additives that you can add to change the mouthfeel of a tequila, to change the flavor profile of a tequila, to make something sweeter, to make it taste like caramel or bananas, or whatever it is that you're trying to create to make your expression. And what they're doing at Fortaleza is not that. What they're doing at Fortaleza is the natural process. Whatever they get, they get. Personally, for me, I want my tequila to taste like agave. And I think that this brand, this traditional method, and the way that they're producing tequila really brings out the flavor profile of agave, and you're really tasting what agave tastes like.
There's a lot of brands on the market right now, especially in the American market, that are a bit sweeter because of those additives. They add a ton of additives. You can only add up to 1%, but those additives are so strong that even the tip of a toothpick in a bottle will change your whole bottle.
Yeah.
And more people in the United States think that a good tequila should be sweet. It should not. You should have the agave flavor. And that is because of some brands that use those additives as much as possible to create a sweeter profile. Because as it is, Americans love sweetness. And so they create it to appeal to that market, which is fine if people want to drink that. But a real traditional tequila should taste like agave, as you say.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, I mean, really when it boils down to it, that's about creating some sort of a standard. They're creating something that tastes the same every time. So when I buy X label tequila, it tastes the same every single time I get it. And it's not like what we're talking about here with Fortaleza is gonna be extremely different from batch to batch. I mean, if you're a nerd like me and you can identify with something having a different flavor profile, for me, I think it's something very special, as opposed to like, I would prefer it to be the same every time I get it. I prefer it to be as it is every time I get it, so that I know that what I'm putting in my mouth is exactly how it was supposed to be and how it was produced, let's say when he started this brand, what, 100 years ago?
So, yeah. Well, the brand was started in the year 2000. But
Fortaleza, but the process.
But the process has been around for ages.
So that's 2000's not 100 years.
Not exactly. Depends on when people will watch this. So we're gonna see how bottling is happening, and you can see that this is a very modern style that we have. Everything is state of the art that we have in there. I'm kidding. It's just very, very basic, all handmade, all hand done, labeling and everything. But it's better to show you, and we'll go inside.
All right, let's do it.
We're going upstairs. Mind your head there, and we'll see how those stoppers are actually produced here on the property.
So where we're at right now is we're in the stopper facility. This is where they make all the stoppers for the bottles for Fortaleza. So the first part of the process is pouring the mold. So he pours the mold, and then what, about 5 minutes it takes to dry?
5 minutes. It's still hot when you take them out of that basket. Takes them 5 minutes to dry. They're pretty hard, almost impenetrable, let's say. And then we're gonna paint them, and then we're gonna sand them off so that those lines really come out nicely. So then right here, everything is sanded off. We're gonna put them up nicely, and then we're gonna varnish them. Make sure that they're withstanding whatever clients wanna do with them later on. And then when they're all varnished, when everything is done, we go to the next room and we put on the cork. So as you can see right here, he's putting a bit of glue on a cork, putting the cork onto the stopper itself. And as you can see with these stoppers, we still have some residue glue on here. Now that residue glue is going to be taken off, all with a knife. Literally take off the glue like this.
In the process, this is just another one of those things, again, with Fortaleza being handmade.
100%.
Everything's handmade.
Everything.
Like this, every single top is handmade. Every single agave is painted. Like everything is done by hand, which I think, you know, again, it speaks to sort of not cutting corners to be able to make more. So, you know, in this process, quality is paramount. Like everything that they're doing at Fortaleza, quality is paramount. So I think that, again, speaks to the story. So here we are. We are in the bottling room. This is where they're putting all the liquid in the bottles. They're putting all the labels on the bottles, corking them, and then they check out the process here.
First of all, we have the bottles. They come from one of our bottle factories, and they are just unlabeled, unmarked. But what we have done already is put our silk screen on it. So they're gonna take the bottles and they're gonna wash the bottles with tequila. So if we're gonna bottle reposado like we do today, we're gonna wash the bottles with reposado because we don't want any other water touching the juice that he actually worked so hard to make. We're gonna wash it, and then we're gonna fill it up. As you can see, this reposado is pretty darn dark. Go ahead.
So I don't know if you guys caught that. So what they're doing here is they're washing the bottle with the reposado tequila. It goes from rinse. He's gonna stack them right here.
Ready for filling up. The fun thing about this machine, we didn't have the means to get a new machine when we started the brand. So we got this machine out of the museum. This is a machine from 1938. It's Swiss, so it still works.
It's going, and she's actually dipping the cork also in the reposado.
To make sure they are well sealed.
She's taking the corks, the toppers, dipping it in reposado, put it in the top to make sure she gets an airtight finish. And that's gonna be passed down. And then we're checking here for
quality check. We got a bright light. Every bottle is held against that light. See if there's any impurities, a piece of glass, a mosquito, anything that could have gone into the bottle in the time of filling. If something is wrong with the bottle, stopper goes off, gets chugged in the basket, and we filter it again so we can use it again. So these are the labels that go put on. So they put the bottle here, they have the line, they know exactly where the label goes, turn it around, and so on. And then that's the bottle done, goes into the cases and goes onto the pallet, ready to ship. Drink up, because I'm gonna kick you out.
Oh,
this was the end of the tour, man.
The tour. These guys
Thanks,
don't
guys.
even fuck around. Hey, come again. Muchas gracias, Evan.
Hey, friend, un placer. Let's go, guys.
You know, we've really talked about a lot of parts of the Fortaleza story, and we've talked about the production method and sort of some of the things that set you guys apart. What's the future of Fortaleza? Do you think? I mean, like we were just talking about, you know, there's a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of people sniffing around trying to buy your brand because of the success that you've been able to achieve really on your own. You know, like you said, you don't have investors. You've built this thing from ground up, and it's like you guys have like a cult following. you know, and it speaks to how good the juice is. So what's the plans? What are you thinking for the? You want to give? I'll take the brand.
We we have been approached by every major company out there, and no, we're not going anywhere. We got very, very fortunate. Things once in a while happen in your life. We've had multiple things happen that you just look and you say, wow, it could happen to anybody. And one of my neighbors came to me and he said, I want to sell out. And he had a piece of property, a beautiful piece of property, almost an entire city block. And it went on for 4 weeks. He kept coming over for a coffee and a shot. And on the 4th week, he says...
this is a theme with you, coffee and a shot.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how it's done, coffee and a shot.
I love coffee, I love my tequila, so... And then finally he says, look, if you don't want to buy my land, I'm going to go see Cuervo. And I said, no, I want to buy your land now. So we got this beautiful piece of land. And what really convinced me was looking at the map and looking at the owners.
Yeah.
The land changes names about every 100 years there, or maybe 200 years.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, you know what, let's get this. We didn't need it at the time. And now we've been able to use the property, and at a certain point, we'll probably put another distillery, a copycat distillery of our first distillery on that piece of land. But we have warehouse over there now. We're going to put offices over there. It's an incredible story. We're 95 employees now. So
oh, that's amazing.
From like 12 employees, we're 95 employees. And we're, I don't know, maybe number 4 in the town of Tequila in terms of employers because of our manual process. So. We're giving good jobs to people, and we're proud of it. We're proud of what we're doing here in this town. I love the little town. It's been a great place to live, and you know, I've been now here full time almost 10 years, and I enjoy every day of it. It's just an amazing place.
So what we can thank our blessings about is that Fortaleza is not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere.
You're gonna keep making this delicious, beautiful juice for us. Again, if you guys have a chance to come down and visit, we'll put up all of the information so that everybody has that. But, you know, Guillermo's first and foremost to me, a great friend and mentor. And, you know, on top of that, produces the best tequila out there. So
thank you
so
very
much,
much,
man.
man.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
You got it.
Yo a mis amigos les doy mi consejo, de las mujeres más vale no hablar, todas son falsas y dan muy mal pago, nunca se debe con ellas confiar, cierto les digo es que tengo motivo, porque yo no hablo nomás por hablar, sirva más vino.